On this episode of Veterans HealthWatch, we'll meet the Volunteers of the Year for the VA Maryland healthcare system and learn about the many ways you can give your time to honor our nation's veterans. Please join us. Welcome to Veterans HealthWatch, a program sponsored by the VA Maryland healthcare system that provides the latest health and benefits information for Maryland's veterans, their family members, and the local community. I'm Kenya Griffin. Have you ever thought about giving back to your community, and especially to the men and women who've served our country in the military? Well, volunteering at a VA might be the best way to do that. Today, we'll meet 3 people who have the distinct honor of being the VA Maryland healthcare system's Volunteers of the Year. We'll learn what they do and why they chose to volunteer at the VA. First, let's go to the Baltimore VA Medical Center's emergency room to meet volunteer Janice Chance.
Hello, I'm Janice Chance and I volunteer with the VA. I started volunteering at the VA after my son was killed in Afghanistan in 2008. My son is Captain Jesse Melton III, United States Marine Corps. He started serving in 1997. He joined the reserves. And Jesse had a desire to make things better for people. He wanted to make a difference. As growing up, he did what he could do to make a difference in the community, helping neighbors, shoveling snow, cutting grass, whatever he could. And so that's the type of man that he grew up serving. So for him to join the military was natural, and he progressed through the ranks, and he's made a difference. I've talked to so many people that have shared that Jesse has made a difference in their lives, and I'm so very proud of him. My daughter is a veteran too. My daughter, Captain Janine Melton, she served as a communication officer in the 440th Signal Battalion, Signal Corps. So her and Jesse served at the same time. Jesse, on the day he was killed, he took the place of another Marine. He was off duty. And the Marine said, "Would you take my place?" And he said, "Sure, I will do that." So I believe God traded places. And 2 days later, that Marine's baby was born on 9/11. So some wonderful things happen on 9/11. So every year when 9/11 comes around, I can smile and remember that she has her daddy because my son took her place. No greater love than a man would lay down his life for a friend. And so one of the things my son told me before he deployed to Afghanistan, he said, "Mom, I want to go change the world and make a difference and do something that will bring God glory, something that people won't forget." And so I remembered that, and I said, I want to continue that legacy of service. I believe that the baton of service was passed on to me and that the enemy did not win. That my son may have died doing military service, but his spirit lives on. And now I'm carrying on that baton and serving those who have served. I joined an organization called the Gold Star Mothers, whose mission is finding strength and the fellowship of other mothers who strive to keep the memory of their sons and daughters alive by serving veterans, active duty military, their families, and work within the community. So this was a wonderful way to do that, and I was determined to carry on the legacy of my son's service. I decided to volunteer in the emergency room because I am a registered nurse by profession right now, and I volunteered in 2016, but I'm still volunteering at church and all. But I wanted to be able to go in an area where I knew that I could probably make the most impact, have the most impact. And knowing that because of my background as a nurse, that I could anticipate probably the needs that the nurses and the doctors have when patients come in. Here in the emergency room, I do a variety of things. I'm blessed to be able to transport patients to different areas like X-ray, radiology, CAT scan, take patients to the dialysis, take specimens to the lab, answer the telephone, direct patients to where they need to go and pick up medication from the pharmacy, and then I go and pick up meals for patients, do whatever I can do. And I always give them a mom salute. So I said, thank you for your service, and I salute you. And they salute me back, and they get a big kick out of that. But it's just so rewarding. I encourage people to come by, especially the moms in my chapter, to come to volunteer at the VA, the USOs, and when I go to speak, whenever I've been given an opportunity to speak, I challenge people to remember. I say, come to serve in the VA. So we have a mom that's in Perry Point. We have a mom now that's Loch Raven. They come to serve. And I said, you will not regret it. In the VA, there are so many different areas that you can serve in. You don't have to be a medical personnel. You can serve in the pharmacy. You can serve X-ray and doing clerical positions, answering telephones. There's so much you can do at the VA. You do not have to have medical experience. We need volunteers, greeters, people work the coffee cart, comfort cart, so going around assisting patients so you don't have to have medical experience to serve at the VA. There's so many things that you can do to make a difference. Being named Volunteer of the Year meant so much to me because it kind of confirmed that I'm doing what God wanted me to do, that I'm really serving, that people recognize that I'm serving. I'm not only talking the talk, but I'm walking the walk. So it means a lot to know, again, that they believed and they saw the work that I do, that they would say, you know, you rose to a level that we want to reward you and say thank you. When I serve our veterans, it makes me feel so good that I am making a difference in the lives of those who served our country and has preserved the freedoms that we enjoy today. If my son could see what I'm doing and it's honor and honor of all those fallen heroes, I'm quite sure he had a favorite saying, sweet, you know. He'd probably say, good job, Mom. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. I know that he will be so proud, he'll be beaming to know that I'm helping his fellow brothers and sisters at arms, carrying on that legacy of service that he started.
What Janice does is just one of the many opportunities to volunteer at the VA. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll meet our first four-legged guest, so please stay tuned.
Volunteering is an opportunity to show your patriotism.
Most importantly, it's a good feeling knowing that you're helping those who have already served.
And it's always an honor and a privilege to me to be there because I know that I get to help the men and the women who have served us.
So if you're interested in volunteering with us, best thing is to get in contact with us through our webpage, or you can also call us.
It really, really gives me an opportunity to give back, make a difference.
Welcome back to Veterans HealthWatch. We've had a lot of interesting guests on the show over the years, but this is the first time we've had a dog join us. Welcoming Alma Schuster, who is the Volunteer of the Year for the Perry Point VA Medical Center, and Sam. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So Alma, could you tell us what you and Sam do at Perry Point?
Sam and I visit Perry Point veterans every Tuesday, and we visit 2 inpatient units, one of which the patients can come and go and have an expectation of actually leaving and living on the outside with their families. And then the other one is veterans who are going to be at Perry Point. I mean, they're permanent residents there. And then we also visit some outpatients. And Sam just goes and visits people. That's what we do. He goes up to everybody. He just shares his loving compassion and kindness and his friendliness. And he lifts people's spirits wherever he goes.
Well, I noticed you had, when we were preparing, I noticed you had a technique for introducing Sam to people. So tell us how you and Sam greet our veterans.
Well, I'll show you how we do it. Hi, I'm Alma, and this is Sam, and we're a pet therapy team, and we visit the veterans. We visit all veterans at Perry Point that we're assigned to on Tuesdays. And we come because it's in our hearts to be here. It's our privilege to be here. We come to thank all veterans for their service. We know we can never repay the veterans, but from my heart and Sam's heart to every veteran's heart, we appreciate you and we thank you.
And who can turn down a visit after that introduction? And Sam with his big eyes. So how long have you two been volunteering at the VA?
We started volunteering in the summer of 2016 in July. We've been coming pretty much every week ever since. And my husband and Sam and I come and visit the veterans on special days like Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving and Memorial Day and 4th of July and days like that, because being a military institution, anybody who could get a pass went, and the people who couldn't get a pass are there because they can't leave.
Well, being a medical facility, actually.
That's
Yeah.
sometimes they can't, and sometimes people really don't have a special place to go.
Yeah.
So we go and we visit anybody that's there. And Sam and I have a policy. Besides our assignments, we visit anybody on campus, anywhere, who wants to say hello to him.
And so why did you choose the VA?
Well, both of my parents were regular Army, and both of them served overseas in World War II. And my mother was an Army nurse, and my dad was in the infantry.
Alma, you mentioned that you were a therapy team. I think that's how you said it. What types of training did you and Sam need to provide this kind of therapy or pet therapy to our veterans?
Well, I basically trained Sam myself, and just his basic and advanced obedience commands. And I think, he came with the temperament he has, which is friendly and confident, but I just taught him to be well behaved. And then on top of that, you go and get certified by Pets on Wheels, is where we did our certification, and they certify him for a good temperament, because of course they don't want a dog that is unfriendly or doesn't have the confidence to visit a lot of people to be doing the job.
And I mentioned his big eyes before, so I'm sure he has a lot of people falling in love with him. You've made a lot of friends. What kind of reaction do you get from the veterans when you bring Sam on the unit?
Well, I think that my voluntary services supervisor said it best, Joyce Coué, and one day she was introducing us to someone and she said, everybody loves Sam. She said, the people who work here, the staff everywhere, and of course all the veterans.
Yeah. Have you ever run into a veteran who seemed resistant and then warmed up to Sam?
Well, what we usually do if a veteran doesn't seem like he wants to pet Sam, I always start from a little bit away, and then I'll just say, hi, I'm Alma. This is Sam. Would you like to say hello to Sam today? And if they don't really want to, I say, well, no problem. We'll just say hello from right here. And we just say hello from a distance.
Okay.
But what I've found is that when they see other people pet Sam and interact with Sam, they warm up to him, and eventually pretty much everybody wants to be with him. Yes. In fact, the collar he has on, you'll notice, is woven in Marine colors. And it was woven for Sam by a Marine, a young veteran that we visited when we first started volunteering. And he wove that collar for Sam in Marine colors. My husband says he's the only dog on the planet that has a collar woven for him by a Marine that he visited in Marine colors. And Sam wears it proudly.
Yeah, Marines. My dad's a Marine.
There you go.
I love that color. So why do you think it's so important to have this type of interaction with our veterans, especially with a pet?
Well, one veteran when he saw us coming, he got down, he threw his arms out wide, and when Sam got to him, he threw his arms around Sam's neck, and he looked up at me and he said, it's really great they have this pet therapy program, it really helps. And I think it helps because Sam gives unconditional acceptance and unconditional love and his unconditional dog compassion. And it doesn't make any difference if you can't speak exactly right, or if you can't speak at all, or if you have parts missing, or if you don't walk exactly correctly. Well, not correctly, but like everybody else. He doesn't care about any of that. And he is just the same with every person.
Yeah.
That he's just a gentle, kind, compassionate presence.
And that's what you need sometimes that's so soothing, just to have someone who's not looking for anything from you, just there for you.
We're not looking for anything. We're just looking to share our time. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah. Well, I hear Sam is expecting a sibling soon.
Well, we're not, because we have a dog that's going to give birth, but my husband and I are planning to adopt another therapy pet. Well, he's not a therapy pet yet, but another black lab who will be a male, about 2 years old, we hope, and he will be a rescue. And then hopefully he will have the temperament, a typical lab temperament, confident and friendly, and I'll be able to train him with all his obedience commands, and then, get him ready to be a therapy pet too. Yeah. And I'm hoping to take both of them.
That's what I was going to ask next. Are you coming as a team? Is that your plan?
We actually already have the special attachment for 2 collars so that you just have one lead and they walk together.
Okay. So Sam can show him the ropes.
I hope he will. I'm sure he will.
Well, for folks out there, we started the show by talking about people who are looking to give back to the community, especially our especially our veterans. What do you get out of volunteering and giving back to the veterans?
It is absolutely the most fulfilling kind of volunteer work I can think of. The brave men and women who have given so much and have sacrificed so much, it's a privilege to be able to be with them. And when I see how much it means to them that Sam comes and that we're faithful, we're very consistent. Mm-hmm. And when I see how much it means to them, it just touches my heart. When we come, what you hear is, look, Sam's here. Hey, it's Sam. And he just wins hearts everywhere. Yeah. He's very gentle and very sweet and very unassuming. And they just pet him and talk to him, and it just brightens their day.
That's perfect. That's exactly what people are looking for out of that volunteer experience. Thank you both so much for joining us. I see why you're the Volunteer of the Year.
Well, thank you very much. I owe half of that. That trophy is his.
Yeah. You get another treat, Sam. Thank you again, Alma.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll learn more about the great volunteer opportunities available through the VA Maryland healthcare system. So please join us.
The Appointment Call Center is a fast, easy, convenient way for a veteran to call in to schedule, change, or cancel an appointment.
You can reach any of us by calling 1-800-463-6295, extension 7333.
The call center is open Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. till 5 p.m. If you need help scheduling an appointment, call the call center because we're here to help.
Welcome back to Veterans HealthWatch. We have one more volunteer to meet. Lee Chambers is the Volunteer of the Year for the Loch Raven VA Medical Center. Lee, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we also have Susan Kern, a Program Manager for Voluntary Services. Thank you for joining us, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
Lee, we'll start with you. Tell us about your role as a volunteer at Loch Raven.
I work I volunteer in the hospice unit, and for the most part, it's giving companionship and comfort to the patients there. And that takes the form mostly of talking. Okay. And when a patient comes on the ward, I wind up in that room sooner or later and introduce myself. We have, since I'm a veteran, it's easy. The easy introduction is what branch of the service were you in? And then we take it from there.
Do you have a little banter, I'm sure?
We have our rapport, right?
Yeah. Our veterans love to banter about their branch of service.
Yes, and where they've been.
Yeah. And what brought you to the VA to volunteer? You have so many opportunities. Why'd you choose the VA?
I retired from Lockheed Martin in 2011, and I was looking for some way to give back to the community. And I was a member of the Special Forces Association, and they celebrated a 50th anniversary of Special Forces in Maryland, and I did a project for them of a program booklet. And I enlisted a lot of people from my work experience at Lockheed Martin. Once that project was done, I was sort of up in the air. I had been a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart since 1987 or so, but I never went to a meeting. So I got in touch with Purple Heart. I went to a meeting, and their main focus is to serve veterans and their families. So I eventually wound up going to Loch Raven VA with the chapter commander of that chapter just to see what support we could give to Loch Raven.
So it paid to show up at that meeting.
It did, indeed.
And you work in a really unique area of Loch Raven, the hospice unit. What drew you to that area? How did that come to?
When we went up initially, the volunteer coordinator took us on a tour of the facility. And he was telling us about this and that. And he says, and down that hallway, because we didn't go onto the hospice unit, he said, down that hallway is the hospice unit, which is an area that really needs support. And my ears perked up at that. And when our tour was over, I eventually got back in touch with him and let him know that I wanted to volunteer, and I wanted to volunteer in hospice.
And I know we give our volunteers really good training about what they need to know about working in a healthcare facility. And especially, I would think, for the hospice unit, was there any particular training required to be a volunteer in the hospice unit?
There's the normal training, and then for hospice, there's a special course that we take.
Okay, Susan, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
He said it perfectly. All volunteers go through a new volunteer orientation, which is about 3 hours and goes into a lot of different topics that are important for someone that's going to be in our facilities. But the hospice training is actually a 2-day training. So everything that we can do to get people ready to volunteer in the hospice unit happens through that training.
It's good for volunteers to know that when they come into the VA system as a volunteer, that they'll have the support of the training. They're just not left out there on their own.
And there's refresher training annually also.
Perfect, yeah. So Lee, tell me about, you mentioned the Military Order of the Purple Heart and how you volunteer as an individual, but you also volunteer as a group.
When you go through the training and become a certified volunteer, then you can be a group leader and bring up to 10 people in with you. And so I go back to my chapter when I find out that there is the National Salute to Hospitalized Veterans, or I think it's called National Salute to Veteran Patients now, and to cover all bases. And
you're good, Lee. You got it.
And then we may bring a gift, or volunteer services may have a gift for us to distribute. But the gift is just the entree. And I think the most important part is the interaction between, we're all combat wounded veterans in Purple Heart, and we can relate to a lot of what the patients are going through and what they've been through. But it's just the banter back and forth.
Yeah, I know our veterans, we always talk about the camaraderie and just them being around someone who understands them, even if it's just a fellow veteran who's also a patient. But for someone to come in and visit them with that same background, you don't have to have that background, but it means so much to them. And so Lee, it sounds like you truly are making a difference with the families and the veterans. And Susan, you talked about some of the special requirements for a hospice volunteer. Let's talk about a little more generally about the requirements for a volunteer within the VA Medical Center.
Sure. So we have an application process. Everyone has to go through the application process. And we also have background checks. That is a national requirement. So everyone that is going to be a prospective new volunteer has to be fingerprinted. We send them to our personnel security division. They do fingerprint them, so it's no cost to the individual. After adjudication comes back to us, so we get the all clear on somebody, that's when we set them up for orientation. They get not only their orientation, but they get the opportunity to select from where we need volunteers. We have all kinds of literature we can send people about volunteering for us, but the application is what really gets it rolling.
Yeah, we just want people to take that first step and get started. And we met 3 volunteers, including Lee, who work directly in the hospital setting at the VA, but I'm sure there are plenty of other opportunities for people to volunteer. Can you tell us more about those?
Oh, sure. Well, so I know we're hospital based. You know, not everybody wants to be necessarily around sick people. They might want to help veterans. They might want to do something, you know, really incredible, but they don't really want to be, you know, around sick people. So we do have offices that people that make that decision can go in and assist and do things that ultimately help the veteran patients. I'll mention one though that's not a patient necessarily related one, but it's definitely a customer service one. We have a beautiful museum that's up at our Perry Point facility, and we have volunteers that serve as the tour guides at the museum, and that's a really nice kind of a thing. You know, we have volunteers that are specifically at the doors of our facility. We call them Red Coat Ambassadors, and what they do is greet people when they come in the door. So they're seeing people, but not necessarily sick people, you know, per se.
And we love our volunteers at the VA, and we have to wrap up soon, but I want to make sure we get out there the needs you have. I'm sure in certain areas of the healthcare system you have specific needs. Could you briefly tell us what some of those needs are for volunteers?
Well, I will mention definitely if you have the interest in our hospice program, we always need hospice volunteers because we try to cover a 7-day-a-week time span between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. That's a pretty long time, so that's always a need. We have a marvelous, very active volunteer transportation program, and that is throughout our VA Maryland healthcare system. We have volunteers that agree to drive government vehicles and go out and pick up people that are coming in for an outpatient appointment and have no other means to get in for their appointment. We always need drivers. I can't stress enough, if you like to drive and it's something you can commit to, then you know, please give us a call. And you know, all three of our volunteers today happen to be the most recent volunteers of the year, and they have pretty unique, in my opinion, types of volunteer things that they do. Janice volunteers in the emergency room. That's another area, I mean, very patient focused, but that's another area where we absolutely need volunteers, and that's our emergency room is only at our Baltimore VA Medical Center. And you know, we got to meet Alma and Sam who are, you know, pet visitation, and you know, Lee mentioned about, you know, going around and saying hello and the camaraderie. That's really what it's all about with our veterans, is that volunteers, community people come in and ask them how they are, and you know, can I give you a smile and wish you well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for joining us and expressing the nature of volunteering and what it does for the veteran as well as for the person who chooses to volunteer. We thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, that wraps up today's show. If you have questions about today's topic or would like to make future suggestions, please give us a call or visit our website. We love to hear from you. And remember, if you know a veteran or you are a veteran who is not using the VA Maryland healthcare system, please consider applying to enroll. You can reach us in person at one of our medical centers, on our Facebook page. You can visit our website. We look forward to serving you. Please join us next time.
I think one of the exciting campaigns that the VA Maryland healthcare system has embarked on is the TeleVet campaign. As a veteran myself, you know, I'm really more interested in what a fellow veteran's perspective on their healthcare service is going to be. So I would really encourage all of our veterans who have been to a VA Maryland healthcare facility to tell fellow veterans about their experience.
I wish someone would have told me about the VA healthcare years ago. If you see a veteran, ask them if they're using VA healthcare.
Make a difference. Tell a vet.